Welcome. Today, we're diving into a really powerful idea, one that shows how a single, seemingly small choice can spiral out and have absolutely massive consequences for every single one of us. We're talking about the ripple effect of ethical absence. So, let's just ask the big question right up front. What actually happens when ethics just disappear? It sounds like a simple question, doesn't it? But the answer is so much more complex, and it touches everything from our own lives to the stability of the entire globe. Let's take a look. Okay, first things first, let's make sure we're all on the same page here. When we say ethical absence, what do we mean? Well, think of it as a state where our moral compass, that sense of right and wrong, gets ignored or just thrown out the window. Decisions start being driven by pure self-interest, or maybe even worse, just plain apathy. This is the ground zero for everything we're about to explore. So here's our game plan. We're going to follow this ripple effect from the very beginning to the very end. We'll start with how it looks inside a single person, then we'll watch it expand to our institutions, see it hit the entire world, and then, this is the most important part, we'll bring it right back to the role that you and I play in all of this. It really does all begin with that single stone dropped in the water. It might seem small, isolated, but as we're about to see, the impact it creates is anything but small. The first ripple always begins at the most personal level, inside each of us. This isn't some abstract, high-level concept. It's about the real-world choices people make, day in and day out. And on that individual level, the damage shows up almost immediately. When ethics begin to fade, selfishness just naturally takes the wheel. Apathy, that dangerous feeling of who cares, starts to set in. And in its most tragic forms, this absence can actually bubble up as real cruelty and violence. The decay starts right here. Of course, one person's choices rarely stay in a vacuum. That's the whole point of a ripple, right? It has to spread. And that initial disturbance starts moving outward, picking up speed and energy, and it starts to slam into the very structures of our society. And this brings us to the next really frightening stage. This is where all those individual unethical acts start to multiply and scale up. They begin to infect the very systems we all depend on, our governments, our workplaces, our entire communities. And you can see so clearly how the dots connect here. In our bureaucracies, you get a bit of corruption, some nepotism, and what's the end result? Terrible decisions that affect everybody. Now take it up to the political level. An abuse of power there can lead to the criminalization of the entire system, where the line between who's making the laws and who's breaking them gets totally blurred. And then socially, when materialism and getting more stuff becomes the main goal, it creates this culture of disrespect for the most vulnerable people among us. Each level just feeds the next one. From here, that wave has grown into a full-blown tsunami. The decay that started with one person and corrupted our institutions now crashes against our world on a global scale. It threatens everything from our environment to international peace. I mean, the scale of the fallout is just staggering. On one side, look at our planet. An absence of ethics leads directly to things like pollution, deforestation, and horrific crimes against wildlife. On the other side, look at our nations. That same root problem can fuel cross-border terrorism, it can lead to protectionism that shuts down cooperation, and it completely erodes the trust that holds the global order together. The connection is direct and it is devastating. So after seeing that enormous impact, it's easy to feel overwhelmed, right? But it's so important to connect this global crisis all the way back to where it began. Back to the individual. Back to us. And really, this is the ultimate takeaway. That single stone dropped in the water, that one unethical choice, is directly connected to the final massive wave. Ethics, or the lack of them, is the invisible thread that ties our personal actions to the fate of our world. And that leaves us with a final thought. If this whole destructive chain reaction begins with choices, it means it can also be stopped by them. So the real question isn't just what one person will do, but what will we together choose to do next?